Fantastic. Hi, how are you guys? Thank you so much for coming tonight. See some familiar faces. That's a good thing. I love it. Um, well, we are going to just jump right in, to be honest. I do want to be mindful of everybody's evening. And if you're anything like my family, my son is like, the football game is on, and we all play fantasy football. So we're in a rush to go see how Lamar Jackson does tonight for fantasy points, because that's where my brain's at. But anyways, thank you so much for coming. My name is Andrea Rasmussen. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions at Flint Ridge Sacred Heart. But this evening is really to highlight Miss Miller and her science program. And then just so you guys know, in terms of housekeeping rules or whatever, obviously Miss Miller will have her presentation, and then we'll leave some time at the end for question and answers. And those can be obviously directed towards science or admissions, either way. And we can field all of those. All right, Leslie, you want to introduce yourself and then get us started?
Absolutely. So thanks so much for coming. Good evening. My name's Leslie Miller, and this is my 19th year at Flint Sacred Heart. I am the science department chair. I'm also the director of our summer programs, and we have amazing, stuff there. If your students are coming, our rising ninth graders are sometimes counselors for us. Just putting a plug in for that. Um, I teach AP Environmental Science, and I also teach AP Macroeconomics, but I've also taught algebra, advanced algebra, physics, and regular environmental science, and chemistry and honors chemistry. So I've gotten the chance to teach a lot of our courses actually. And I have a lot of colleagues, and I will have a couple slides where I introduce my colleagues to you if you've had a chance to come to open house or a tour. I'm sure you've met some of them. They're amazing. We love each other and have a great collaboration between us about teaching and about how to really make the experience the best for our students. So, in terms of other things, I'm also a past parent. So I can relate to you sitting here and like, oh, what are you all about? And my oldest daughter graduated in 2014, and my youngest graduated in 2023. So that was pretty recent. And they were very involved. So if you have those kind of questions from a parent perspective, I can help you out on that too. So I'm going to switch over. I have a little bit of a presentation for you, but please, you can put a question in chat, or just come off, unmute and throw out a question. It's not a problem at all. Um, Zoom is, that was a bad time for all of us. And but I do reviews with my students on Zoom sometimes at night. It's nice because, they get to get home, get their food. So I'm kind of used to being on it, but I always tell them, I might not see your questions, so just yell at me. If I say something and you're like, oh, I have an amazing question, just let me know. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you. A little presentation here. Let me switch over to slideshow. All right. So I sort of have a saying, and it's science for all and science for young women. And to me, one of the underlying beliefs of our school is we're here for all our students. So wherever they're coming from, whatever they're bringing in terms of their science background, it's really important to us to meet the needs of that student. And we have several students who are going to do a lot of science while they're in high school, and then they're going to go on to science. And we want to make sure we're going to support them. And I will be talking about that a lot because, it's possible you're one of those. But it's also important for us that science is for everyone, and we're building citizen scientists who understand what evidence is, who understand how to talk about evidence and what it's showing us. And we want all our students to really enjoy their experience with us in science. So I'll go over sort of our goals as a department, the group work that we do, show you a little bit of our scope and sequence. We really have quite a few students that move on and go into STEM in college. How do we get them ready? And we'll also talk a little bit about service. I have quick slides on the folks in my department, just so you can get an idea of the breadth and depth of our department. And then, of course, questions. And the questions can be anytime. It doesn't have to just be, at one time. All right, let's see, here we go. So goals of the department, as we want to build confidence in our students and um, teaching women science is really interesting because having had all my daughters were in middle school in a big public school, co-ed, and sometimes I would go down and be a science docent, and you really notice the difference of the way people interact in classes when there's a lot of boys in that class. And it's such an amazing thing when you're in an all-female environment and the girls have their hands on all the equipment instead of the other way around. The girls have to write all the claims and the evidence. And it's great preparation for college for them because it really builds their confidence. Um, Science for All, I talked about that a little bit. I'll go into a little bit more depth in just a second. One thing that we do throughout our classes that we feel are really important is instead of just telling students, go work in a group, like y'all know how to do that. And usually somebody does more work than the others and there's frustrations. We actually teach them how to work in a group by teaching them like you're going to be a facilitator, you're going to be the spokesperson, you're going to be the quality control, you're going to be the writer. So they have roles and it really is important, not just for science, but pretty much many, many, many jobs. You're working in a group for that final project, whatever it is. And they're really building those process skills of teamwork and communication, leadership, and really notice because I tend to teach right now, I'm teaching juniors and seniors, and I really notice the students how their skills have built by the time they're seniors. We'll talk a little bit about our research program as well. This is, if it lets me flip over to this, this is a long document. We're not going through it, but we review our scope and sequence every year to make sure it's relevant. We also meet with our alumni who have gone into science to get some feedback of, are we still meeting your needs longer term when you leave here? What was your college experience like? Did you have the skills you needed? Did you feel prepared compared to your peers? And so we review this every year, and we also try to have what we call a focus group about every 3 years with alum. Um, and so, data collection, data analysis, obviously, I'll just stop on experiments because this is huge. But so we scaffolded. So as a ninth grader, they're really learning how to do experiments, and they're doing a lot of them. And in 10th grade, that's going to be chemistry for them. And they're going to do a lot of collection and analyzing of data and writing a lot of claim. And here's my evidence. And this is why that makes sense using some laws. There are often, thermodynamics or laws like that that are going to explain what happened. And then 11th grade, our students have a lot of choices in 11th grade in terms of the classes they can take. But we really dive deep even into more experiments. And in all the classes, they're really designing a lot of their own experiments. So by 12th grade, when they're taking physics, not only are they able to design those experiments on their own and take the data and come to all those conclusions, but we also have a group of about 10 students each year who are going to take science as their research class. And what that means is they're going to learn about how to do scientific research at a much deeper level. And they're going to conduct an experiment for a couple months, get data, and present that. They're going to present their experiments. They're going to make, displays of that experiment. We often go down Archer School for Girls and compete there, and we do very well, winning a lot of what they call the Rise Awards. We also have another group, the um, Honors Engineering for Social Good, is a similar process with just, slightly different approach because they're looking at engineering principles. So that's kind of like our scaffolding needs to get our students ready for that, or we're trying to get them ready to be very strong citizen scientist. So I'm going to go back to my other, here we go. All right, I'm back on the blue, right? Okay. So why do we care so much about women in STEM? Well, one of the reasons is women are underrepresented. So women have reached pretty much parity if you look at the labor force. It actually went down for women a tiny bit during COVID, but is coming back up. And women are about half of the labor force, but in STEM, which means science, technology, engineering, and math, we're only about a quarter. And unfortunately, I'm going to admit Edgar there. Unfortunately, it's an issue for a few reasons. First, they're very well-paying jobs. So we want women in well-paying jobs, right? And secondly, a lot of these jobs are really kind of making the world a better place. And women come at things with, a different approach to leadership and to solving problems. And you need more voices in the room. More voices in the room is advantageous. So we really want to have, as a science teacher, obviously I want to have more women in STEM. I also teach economics. I want more women in economics as well. But for very similar reasons, women are really underrepresented in economics as well. Um, so. All right. It looks like, do we have one question in the chat? I'm trying to oh, that was just a thank you. Okay. No worries. All right. The oops, sorry. Get that out of my way. All right. This is more about STEM. So STEM workers earn more. And STEM fields are growing. If you look at like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you can look at, different careers and you can see what the pathway is moving forward in terms of the growth areas. And almost all across the board, STEM fields are growing, whether they're in the health area or engineering and or math related, et cetera, like data analysis. All those fields are growing a lot. And they tend to have some of the highest salaries. And the jobs also impact our daily lives. So we wanna have women in STEM and we want to prepare them for when they do go to college, that they feel confident. So and the if you look at UCLA, for example, and what majors people are taking, half the people at UCLA are taking STEM majors. In the healthcare area, biology is one of the biggest ones. Computer science is about 7%. And to get into UCLA, into those majors, you have to be a very competitive student. And so we want to make sure that our strong students can compete and go after that dream that they want to go after. So here are some of the things. So in terms of the philosophy and the way that we teach, we're always going back to that scope and sequence for the 21st century, making sure we're preparing our students for the skills that they need. And to do that, we have very student-centered learning, a lot of activities in the classroom, a lot of hands-on. Even if we're doing something that's more like in AP Environmental Science, we might have more of a discussion, right? But it's going to be a student-led discussion about, what are the pros and cons of genetically modified organisms, for example, or we might even do a debate about that. Very collaborative. We embed service learning into many of our courses. We have 4 teachers who have considerable experience in science, and so that's really nice. We have a big department, and so we have a lot of information to share with each other. We have summer opportunities that we help our students obtain. And we also have a way of grading that really looks at mastery. For example, many of our courses, students can redo quizzes. Because it's not so important that, oh, you got it in 3 seconds. It's important that you learn it. So even for like my class, if you've learned it by the exam, your grade is going to change. It isn't just going to be the exam grade. I'm going to go back and change some of your other grades because you've shown me that you've mastered the material. And that's what's important is that we're moving forward every day, learning more, not that, oh, you got it right the first time. Um, so in this sort of science for everyone, whoops, picked the wrong thing. We've got two APs and two honors. Our APs are AP Environmental Science and Biology. Our honors are honors Chemistry and Physics. So we're challenging in both in life sciences and in the physical sciences. We have our very special honor scientific research class. And if you haven't already come in and done a tour, make sure you get to see Research Alley and what goes on there. This year, they're doing research on planaria, which is like this super cute little worm, and how planaria learn. And then they're also doing field work outside on looking at succession. It's pretty interesting. We have our science building got built, finished in the late 90s, and they had to cut the field in order to push the dirt around. We weren't there at the time. We're trying to get some evidence with pictures, but then we have our softball field and we have like a little cliff. And there's two areas where there was barren rock, and the other area had more of the existing chaparral there. So they're kind of looking at succession in these areas. We're really excited about it actually, because then that's research our students could do in the summer as well. Um, we have six core choices the junior year. So our students take biology freshman year, sophomore year, they'll take honors chemistry or chemistry depending on their interests and generally their levels of math. And then junior year, they have six core choices in science, or they can also take classes in the engineering and computer science department if they'd like. And then senior year is physics. Our students almost all take physics. Most of our students take 4 years or more of science, and I'll go into that in a little bit. Um, we have relationships in our community with environmental organizations that we do service with, and our students are often placed in internships there. We also have a course that is case study based, and it has a lot of service learning embedded in it. Um, so this is just the girls out. This is actually on site. They were pulling some invasives. That grass behind them, that fountain grass is invasive. And then this is just, I just pulled a picture. Um, even if we're having something that is not a lab per se, we want to have the girls engaging with each other. In this case, what they're doing, it's actually a review day, and they're explaining a process to each other, and then they move down the line and get different questions. So some of our statistics here are some of our partners in the communities. Cities has a space academy with JPL, and we've been doing really well there. We won the best launch last year and also the best stock market portfolio. We also work with Amigos de los Rios, and they're an environmental organization that is doing a lot of work, a lot of native plant, but also restoring the watershed in the area, kind of from Altadena up to Monrovia. Arroyos and Foothills Conservancy, also known as AFC. They're kind of like a local version of Nature Conservancy. They buy property and conserve it, and then try to manage it, and they also do a lot of education. So we're deeply involved with all of these groups. Some of our students take as many as 8 years of science. So their junior and senior year, they double or triple up in science. And our students place into medical, engineering, teaching, environmental summer internships, and some of those are paid. A significant number of our students major in science or health in college. I have a little listing of that in just a minute. And we are in the second year of Science Olympiad. We're really excited about that. This is a competitive group where the girls focus on, say, trees. One of the subjects might be trees. So they learn about trees, and then they have like tests against other people. And we're just in our second year of that, but it seems to be going really well. We're getting really excited. The regionals are in February. And then um, also in terms of statistics, our AP scores, the two APs that we have, are consistently well above national averages. So this past year, the national pass rate for AP Environmental Science is 54% only, and that means, for those of you who know AP, it's a 3, 4, or 5, which is equivalent to a C plus or higher in college. And our pass rate was 90%, and that's pretty consistently our pass rate. And in AP Bio, the national pass rate was 68.3%, and our pass rate was everyone. So that's, and we had about 30 girls in APES and about 20 in AP Bio. So over half of our students are taking one of these APs in their junior year. Um, this is just, these are the girls that graduated last year, and I actually don't think I have all of them. There's definitely more in allied health that I didn't grab. These are mostly students that I taught earlier on in honors chem. And so I know them a little bit better. But there's some other students that I know went into allied health or environmental science or studies in some of these other schools. But just to give you an idea, we're placing our students. The dream for many students is, one of the UCs, for cost reasons, but also you're getting a great education. Veronica there is at Georgetown studying environmental studies. She was very much, a top student. We usually have girls going to Notre Dame. The year before, we had 3 students going to Notre Dame, and 2 of them, actually, no, all 3 of them are studying science, some area of engineering or science. So it just gives you an idea of we want our students to be college ready in these areas, and it's usually very competitive to get into these areas at each of these schools. Yeah. So here's the team. I promised you I'd introduce the team. You may have already met if you went to the engineering stuff, Ty Buxman. But he is our computer science and engineering teacher. He also is now our dean of research, and he teaches the honor scientific research class, and he also teaches the engineering research class. And he's in his 22nd year at Fishaw. And then Mrs. Sakurati, Diane, she is in her 27th year, and she's a little bit more like she just teaches one class now. She used to teach AP Bio and Chemistry as well, and she's teaching forensics. It is a very loved, beloved elective class. She always tells the students, um, that there is no homework and you will all get A's. And so they run to sign up, of course. But it's so engaging. So I always visit, I visit the classes of my department, and I go into her class and I never want to leave. It's always like, oh my gosh, what is this? Ooh, blood spatter. Or, we're learning how to properly put things into evidence bags. It's just like every day, it's like really new, interesting information. Miss Toogood, she's in her 4th year, and she is actually an alum from the class of 2010 and also a softball coach. But she teaches anatomy, biology, and our regular environmental science class. And she incredibly dedicated. She also tends to, just as a warning, if you come to our school, she might dress code you. She really believes in the uniform. She believed in the uniform when she was a student. I actually taught her, and she was always, looking very sharp. There I am. Here are more. So Kayla is one of my other experienced teachers. She's in her 8th year. She is our science Olympiad coach, and she lives in the residence hall. And so many of our students get to see that side of her as well. And she teaches biology and AP biology, and she is sort of, our life science specialist. Lynn Tran, Mr. Tran, came from another all-girls Catholic school. And so even though he's in his 2nd year with us, he's been teaching for some time, much longer than that. And he's teaching volleyball. So I call him the Pied Piper because students are always in his classroom during lunch, before school, after school. He loves doing demos. And it's super engaging. The students, they adore him. Miss Gutierrez is a little bit new as well. She came to us. She has that PE background, but also she is was a tennis pro. And she played on the international circuit and does half Ironmans. So she is an amazing role model for our students. And PE does report into science because of the health component, and just so she has a bigger group of colleagues to talk about teaching with. And then, whoops, don't want to miss Sierra. Oh my gosh. So Sierra Kozakar, also an alum, and she is our amazing physics teacher. I'm always like, physics is 24/7. There are students in there before school, lunch and after school, literally every day. She really wants them all to love it and to understand it. And once again, it's really fun to have the alum because they get it. They understand the experience and want our students to have that same great experience that they had. Um, and the last two teachers teach a little bit of science, but they have other big roles on campus. So Miss Herrick is actually the residential life director, but sometimes she will teach community chemistry in the summer, or sub for us sometimes if she's available. She's not as available anymore because she used to be the assistant director. And then Kelly Borrego is actually our athletic trainer, but she teaches an elective in sports med. So that's really fun because it's like this is what she does for a living, and she's teaching the students how to do it as well. So that's our team. So you see, our team is quite large, and it's like a big family, and we really learn a lot about our students and how to teach from each other. Um, One of the last things I just wanted to do is that another thing that I think we do really well is we stay in contact with our alums. So I like as we get into the holidays, I will go to lunches with alums and just to like see, we love to know how they're doing. So I'm going to highlight just a few of them, and I think all of them, I've seen them in the past year. So Alyssa is currently at Stanford working on her PhD, and she saves dogs. So I've actually seen her very close to me walking her dogs. So, and when she's home, but the she is doing amazing work. She was a researcher at Caltech for a few years before she applied for the PhD program. So she's in her second year of her PhD program at Stanford. And so, and the courses she took while she was here, she took biology, of course, honors chem, AP Environmental Science, Honors Physics, Honors Scientific Research. She also did 3 years of dance. I like mentioning things like that because a lot of our um, girls, I think one of the ways they stay so deeply involved in science is by being balanced with their art or with their athletics. And she was also a cross country runner. Um, Here is Crystal Toogood. This is actually Candace's sister. She is also an environmental scientist. And she took biology, chemistry, apes, anatomy, sports med, and physics, and she played softball all 4 years. Um, and we have Kate Dowd. Kate Dowd recently, she just got a job with Northrop out in Pennsylvania. I saw her right before she left, actually. So she's an aerospace engineer, and she took biology and honors chem, AP environmental science, honors physics, and she also did the scientific research class. But she took 4 years of 2D art. So she's very good at sketching and drawing, and I think that really helped her with her engineering. Um, and then the last one I'm highlighting here is Sam Covey. She actually recently started medical school, and here she is in Sierra Leone doing volunteer work, and she was collecting data on a couple different research programs. But she took the norm, she took the biology, the honors chem, the AP biology, and the honors scientific research. She did a lot of 2D and 3D art and another cross country runner. So you can see a lot of them have some similarities. Now, a little bit obviously in the classes they took, but also the other things they were interested in. But I love talking about, our great students. So that's kind of, our science, past, current, and then hopefully our future TOLOGs. And love to talk about questions you might have about our experience, and I'll take this off share so you're not just looking at a blue screen there. Um, so, what kind of questions, especially from the students, like uh, anything in terms of our expectations or things you would love to see when you come?
Um, okay, so there was one question. It says, will you please talk about the health science classes? So I think
Okay.
the component, the ninth grade component.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So, maybe health science in terms of you're thinking sort of pre-med-ish. Is that,
Oh, good
or are
question.
you just thinking about the health class itself?
I think it's about
The
the health
PE?
class itself, what the girls are doing on the juxtapose of PE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So in PE, so PE is mostly active, right? So you're gonna learn different sports. Recently, they learned how to play pickleball. And we bought all the pickleball equipment. Okay, got it. And so like everything, right? So, and then health, they'll also get into nutrition. So it's pretty traditional, what you would learn in a beginning health class. In terms of all our other courses, so our students that are interested in either allied health or interested in sort of a pre-med track. So if we're talking about a pre-med track, so we're talking about something very rigorous when they go to college, we have suggested core courses. So they would come in with biology, and then they're going to take an honors chemistry because obviously they're going to have to take um, probably about 3 years of chemistry in college, including a full year of organic chemistry in all those labs. And yeah, we can talk, I'll talk about the boat project too. So, so then that they get ready with the honors chem, and then generally, if people are really interested in healthcare, they're usually going to take the AP biology class, and that's going to get into, the cell down, so the microscopic aspects of biology, and they really study like the structure of protein and the production of proteins, and it's really the core focus in an AP biology class is cell biology, and it really prepares students for that first year of biology in college, which anyone in pre-med or allied health is going to take. Um, and then the other classes, a pre-med student would definitely want to be in honors physics. They might, depending on the rigor of their program, they might have to take physical chemistry. It's going to depend on if they're going into allied health or if they're pre-med. And then the other classes they'd want to take. So we have an anatomy and physiology class. Most of our girls that have been interested in medical or either allied health or med school kind of thing, pre-med, definitely take that class. They really love that class. They dissect many things, and they really learn about form and function in that course. The girls find it really engaging. It is really an excellent course. And sometimes there's even schools, colleges that don't have a great anatomy and physiology class, and this is just really the girls really enjoy it. So I would say our strongest students, what they do is they double up their junior year and take AP biology and anatomy at the same time, and they're going to be super well prepared. The students usually will also take sports medicine if they have all of those interests. Right. So if you're going to go into, we have a student right now who's a junior, interested in sports training, et cetera. And she took the sports med, loved it. And she's like, yeah, this is confirmed that that is what I want to do. And she's actually also a cross country runner. Can you see a theme there? So a great cross country runner. Um, and so that's kind of and then depending on most of our students, I say that we're truly pre-med. They also did the honor scientific research their senior year. And they probably would do more of probably not the environmental field work. They do more of the other, whether it was algae or working with the planaria. We've also looked at streams of antibacterial resistant I'm sorry, we've looked at antibacterial, anti, oh my gosh. Um, yeah, what am I thinking? Not antibacterial. What am I saying? Bacteria that is resistant um, to different pathogens and other stuff. And they've done streams of work with those lines of bacteria before. We can't work with things like cancer cells in a high school lab, but usually, the pre-med type students would be taking honors scientific research, and I would say that they generally would take about 6 years of science, as a minimum, if that's truly, truly their interest. For the allied health, maybe not quite as many years. Did that answer your questions about health science? So we don't have forced tracks, but we have suggested classes if students want to go into these things, and we definitely have quite a few students that go into medicine. Yeah. Okay, good, good. The physics boat project, so super fun. The physics boat project is the last project senior year. The students learn about buoyancy, and then they model their boat using the underlying physics concepts of buoyancy. And there's different rules every year. So some year the rule is there's only one person in the boat, and you've got to pick up floaties that are in the water to get in before you get across. Or another year, they had to they had to build the boat. I think there were three people in it, and they had to pull themselves with a rope across the pool. Most years they have oars. So anyway, the physics boat project is super fun, super collaborative. The girls work in groups of 3 or 4. Their boats are made out of cardboard, and we use paper tape. Um, and it usually there's dimensions that can't be bigger than X, Y, or Z because they have a restriction on how much tape they're allowed to use. One year we used way too much tape. We're like, oh my gosh, that was not okay. So we've been much more restrictive. That happened a long time ago, but I've been here 19 years, so it was like 15 years ago. We're like, oh no, that was too much tape. Anyway, the boat project, the girls really, I think when they talk about memories from senior year, it's always on the list of one of their favorites. Other questions? Yeah. So depending on, if you are interested in science, like I said, we're going to support you. If you're interested in, the physical science, chemistry, physics, or, life science, we're going to give you the background so you're ready, as you saw that list. And one thing we're really proud of is we think we have a very high percentage of students that stay in science once they start, because I'm sure you've heard a lot of stories of like, oh, start in biology and oh, that lab, no, no. And but our students are ready, so they have a better idea of what it's going to be like. And so they're not as like, oh my gosh, this is not what I was thinking this was. They actually have a much better idea what it's going to be like, and so they stay in it. And that's very exciting, to have so many women staying in STEM at the collegiate level. Yeah. Any questions from like parent standpoint, or even like, both my daughters did very different co-curriculars. One was a dancer. She danced all 4 years. She actually danced outside, semi-professionally. And then my younger daughter did cross country. And the she did one musical, because usually she ran track during that time, but she just really wanted to try that out, and she did choir. She really had a good time in choir. um and a lot of different clubs. She was an ally in many, many different affinity groups. She was involved in sustainability and cooking and gardening, and um, there's a lot available for our students. Oh, how do they balance out their schedule? I think our students take uh they have so much energy sometimes. I'm always like, wow, these kids are energetic, you know? And I think part of it when I look at them, I'm like, wow, I miss being a teenager, you know? Um, but how they balance, I think it's multifaceted, right? Many of us as teachers and as parents understand the ebb and flow of our school. So, for example, right now is Tech Week for our students that are in the play, and we have, I think, 23 students are in the play and 43 are doing tech in the background. And they were at school for at least 5 hours a night this week. And so, like, as an experienced teacher, I know I'm leaving my kids alone. I'm leaving my students alone this week, you know? I'm not going to give them too much homework. I'm going to really let them enjoy this time in that play. And there's enough of us like that that I think it really helps them balance out their schedule. I Most of the teachers are sensitive to big events in their life. I teach seniors, and October is a hard time for me writing letters, so I know it is a hard time for them writing their applications. So, and I think the senior teachers were all very aware of that, and we have some rules about right near their due dates not to be, having big tests and things like that. So, I think the school, we have many conversations in curriculum board of like, what is a reasonable amount of homework? What, when we have breaks, only AP classes can give homework over our breaks. And the reason the AP classes sometimes they just, the AP class might need to have them read a little bit or something like that. I usually have them in my classes. They get AP macro, I'm not going to have them do any work because we're kind of on top of it. I also teach finance within that class. But like apes, because there are 99 topics they have to learn, they're going to get to watch like The Biggest Little Farm or something that's very related to our course. And they might not have time to do when they're not on break, and it's a fun thing that they can do with their family. And I think so many of the teachers were all oriented in that way. We know the students in sports, sometimes they're out late. And so at least in our department, we're very flexible with like what's the penalty for being late? You can turn it in late. Like for me, turn it in late, it's fine. My dates are there to keep you on schedule for that assessment you're going to take. And if you need to do it a little bit later, it's fine. We're going to work it out because I know these other things are meaningful and important to them. But at the end of the day, academics is the most important. But we have to work with them too. I mean, high school's supposed to be fun as well. You can see the list. We do well. These girls, get into, great schools, but they shouldn't sacrifice meaningful social time and co-curriculars just to have their head in the book for 4 years.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that for just a second. I think that um, the this is my third year at Flint Ridge Sacred Heart, and the one thing I've observed, or that when I have students with me at any point, like if they're doing a panel or if they're at a school visit, the one thing they talk about is the relationship that they have with their teachers and how that begins as early as freshman year. And really building that relationship, I think, is quintessential kind of to helping them balance. So I think there's a number of supports, right? Students have a counselor, they put together their schedule, they're very thoughtful with their schedule, and then partnering with teachers to help uh, give your parameters, like, hey, I know this is a busy week, we're gonna lay off, but next week, I don't know, it's a wonderful collaboration with a whole bunch of adults on campus. And then the relationship, I think, is really special.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been going a little bit light in my classes, and I know I'm going to be writing a little note over the weekend, like, "Hey guys, it's crunch time.
Yeah.
Now you got to be here for me and for this class." So there's an ebb and flow, and I think we really want to work with our students, so they do stay healthy and they balance. And I think something mentioned here is also really important. I've been an advisor before. We have grade level advisors, and that relationship's super important because every year when students are picking their classes, it's really important to take the right classes for that student. You know, you want to be challenged, but you don't want to be pulled down by too much work. So if someone knows that they're doing club soccer and school soccer and they're gonna have a lot of days where they're gone over the weekend, you know, three APs might not be the right idea for them in their, junior year or whatever. But so and that's something they can talk to their counselor about. Like you want to have the right load of classes for the kind of co-curricular involvement you have outside of class. And you also know yourself. By the time you're picking those junior classes, you kind of know, are you in the fray in terms of how long does homework take you? Homework takes some students longer than others. So if a student is incredibly efficient, I used to joke about this is actually the student that went to Georgetown. Even on a test, she would literally finish in less than half the time than the other students. And that was homework was like her that for her too. So that kind of student can take, harder classes because they are incredibly efficient. So anyway, that is that those relationships are really important. So because we want students to be healthy both mentally and physically and and have that good experience. And it's important to all of us. Yeah. Yeah, these are really good questions. Thank you. I love asking questions. I love questions.
Um, if please do write in the chat. I wanted to go over two opportunities to come up to the hill in which you could it's kind of a threefer, if you will. So on oh my gosh, November 14th and December 3rd, we have what's called Science on the Hill, where prospective families are invited up to the hill. You'll hear from a panel of actually Miss Miller and then a few other of students, and you'll also have a parent on the panel to talk about, excuse me, their experience in science and kind of what they've done. And then afterwards, the students actually get to shadow a science class, and then the parents actually do a campus tour while they're sitting in class. So if you'd like to do that, that is on our visit us page. So flamersacredheart.org, and then under admissions and visit us, you can register for that event if interested. Okay. I don't know if any more questions. I know I'm long-winded. But I just want to thank everybody for your time. Thank you, Miss Miller. You're amazing. I love it. I appreciate it. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a good night.
Hope to see you all on campus.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you.